The Silk Road was one of the most powerful factors in the development of cross-cultural exchange between nations from 100 to 1000 AD. Along with the studies I've done for my World Civilizations 1 class this quarter, I've studied two peer-reviewed publications on the subject and also read The Roman Empire and the Silk Routes, the Ancient World Economy and the Empires of Parthia, Central Asia, and Han China by Raoul McLaughlin to give me a comprehensive view on just how cross-cultural exchange along the Silk Road led to the stability and proliferation of cross-cultural exchange between its users. It's important to understand the significance of the beginning of inter-imperial commerce and the role it played in spreading more than just items but also ideas. So the Chinese discovered that the Romans existed around 124 BC when Zhang Qin told China of a sophisticated society that existed to the west. He was a captured man that was refound, and he had a Xiongnu wife, and he told them about what he had learned about the civilizations further west that the Chinese had no way of knowing about. Rome also knew of China, but they had no way of having direct contact with each other because of the many countries in between. So after they discovered each other, the Silk Road started to be established. From the Euphrates frontier in Syria, it was 100 days to go across Iran, then 50 more days to cross Bactria in Kushan, and then 25 more to the Tashkurgan outpost in the Tarim Basin. So it took 5 months just to travel the western section of the Silk Route that led to the Tarim Basin. From China, around 10 state caravans would leave every year with about 600 camels and 4 tons of silk, among other things. Only a fraction of this silk got to Rome. It's significant to know the relationships that can be built between empires and peoples based on geographical relationships and luxury goods. To paraphrase Raoul McLaughlin, the world can change when one culture discovers another, such as China discovering India when it took control of the Tarim territories. We've also learned from this topic that intermediaries are very essential. The Kushan and the Parthians were very significant to the formation of the Silk Road because they were the kingdoms and empires in between Rome and China that Rome and China had no way, the East and the West had no way of getting around these intermediaries. So they were required middlemen. We also learned about what was traded and what was desired by each empire. Once China found out about Rome in 124 BC, they really wanted crops such as coriander, onion, cucumber, carrots, beans, sesame, garlic, grape wine, and alfalfa. They especially wanted alfalfa because they had no room for pasture land to grow a lot of grain for horses, which they also really wanted. But alfalfa didn't need a lot of pasture land, so it changed how things worked, how many horses China was able to keep. It really helped and changed their supply chain. And around the imperial palace after this time just became full of western flowers and crops. They were highly desired, and the Romans obviously desired silk very much, and also spices. We learned about the transport of these goods and what was easy to carry and what was not in those 600 camel caravans, and a lot of the time they would transport very thick silk, and then once it got to the west they would break it down and reloom it into thinner fabric, just through the ease of transport. an important thing about the establishment of the Silk Road is that and once the building up of quality goods was done, that what could happen now that couldn't happen before this time was that peace could be bought and settled upon. So the Han Empire had always struggled a lot with the Xiongnu, their neighbors, who liked to raid and pillage them. So they developed economic strategies. The Chinese couldn't deal very well militarily with the Xiongnu because they had infantry, which was harder to mobilize and pay for and move around than the cavalry troops, which the Xiongnu had. So many times they had to pay tribute to the Xiongnu in form of goods and sometimes even marriages, and they were paying as much as 10,000 pi of silk per annum, which was a lot of silk. And so the first Han Emperor Gao Zu set up trading posts so that it could be sort of a way to purchase peace. The Xiongnu found it very valuable to be able to purchase Chinese goods, and it was more valuable to them to have these trading posts and goods available than to have to ransack them and move on them militarily and destroy all their ways of producing goods and then not have the goods available, and then also, take a high risk of moving the army. So the economic strategies became very important for the Chinese. And Emperor Qing from 157 to 141 BC endeavored to go further than only just purchasing peace and purchasing, making it valuable for them to stay alive, but sort of took this strategy further to create a sort of economic control over the Xiongnu and make them dependent on Chinese products. So the Xiongnu, not only did they not want to get rid of the Chinese, but then they would actually need them to survive, which was a really good strategy. And as far as the Western civilizations go, the Romans sort of had, they also had sort of outside neighbors that they kept the peace with by supplying goods in the Yazyges. So the Kushan and the Sogdians show that there was a lucrative trade in being the middleman to the east and west. Their empire rose through being intermediaries between highly coveted silk and the bullion of the west. We learn how this changed relationships between empires. The Han learned to make peace with the Xiongnu by letting them have access to the sale of goods. This kept the routes and supplies open. And by not having cultures constantly wiped out and instead allowing them to survive in exchange for valuable goods, things not only became peaceful with less slaughter, but they also incentivized trade even more and led for opportunities for more cross-cultural exchange, as cultures could remain intact instead of having to rebuild. The increased commerce that became available through the Silk Road and its ability to spread ideas and goods from east to west was best for the good of all humanity. As empires became richer, they became able to buy their own survival, and cultural extermination also declined as the value of goods producers became better known. Leaders changed some of their focus from carnage to creation, and people prospered as they never had before up to that time. As commercial interactions became more common than those of warfare, the exchange of culture spread like wildfire, and it's all thanks to the wealth that flowed along the silk routes.